Živio Heather Travar Tukaj, your Slovenian citizen diplomat. Today we're discussing how Slovenia treats its immigrant children in regard to education. Now, to do this, because I'm an attorney, I think we need to start with the basic document that all the laws flow from, and that is the Constitution of Slovenia. In the next video, I discuss how they actually implement what these theories are in the Constitution. We'll start here with the basic charter, then look at some articles in the Constitution. I'll place the link in the comments below. However, know that if you will just Google official National Assembly translation Constitution of Slovenia, you should find a PDF that will be in a format that is much, much easier to read than what you're looking at on the screen right here. And by the way, this is actually an unofficial translation, but as best I can tell for the relevant sections, it's the same. But you can easily get the official translation in a PDF. So we start with the basic charter. We look at Article 3, and it states that the Republic of Slovenia guarantees the protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms to all persons in the territory of the Republic of Slovenia, irrespective of their national origin, without any discrimination whatsoever. That's a pretty strong statement. It makes me think a lot of our due process clause. The problem with our due process clause in the United States Constitution is that it wasn't really clear if it applied to everyone who was physically in the U.S. or if it just applied to U.S. citizens. Eventually, the Supreme Court decided it applied to everyone. But this is a problem I see often with our Constitution. First and foremost, we talk about government operations. Secondly, we talk about some rights. And third, we really dance around who gets those rights. Is it men? Is it all men? Is it only white men? Is it white men, black men? Are women included? We're not really sure. We know, for example, that in the 60s, we had to determine if black children could get the same education as white children. We weren't really sure about that in our Constitution because, in fact, in our Constitution, we don't guarantee education at all. So the Supreme Court had to step in again. And I think this is a major flaw in the United States Constitution, that things that are not spelled out that should be spelled out. We refer to the U.S. Constitution as a living document, but this means we have to do a lot of reinterpretation, and perhaps this is a good time to take a cue from Slovenia and learn to just spell it out. So let's see, they've spelled it out here. They said that if you're in the territory of the Republic of Slovenia, you're guaranteed human rights and fundamental freedoms. Now, I think that this paragraph is specifically targeting the Hungarians and Italians who are in Slovenia, who are not descendants of migrants who have been there for ages, knowing that Yugoslavia was a much bigger territory once. Slovenia itself used to be twice its size. It used to have part of Italy, Austria, Hungary, and Croatia, but that land was taken from them after World War II. So I think that this is really getting at that population and making sure that population is protected. But it doesn't say only that population. It says it guarantees the human rights and fundamental freedoms to all persons in the territory. That's pretty strong. We don't say that in our U.S. Constitution. This is really strong language. Now, let's go to the Constitution itself. Let's go to Section 2, Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms, Article 14. In Slovenia, everyone shall be guaranteed equal human rights and fundamental freedoms, irrespective of national origin, race, sex, language, religion, political, other conviction, material standing, birth, education, social status, disability, or any other personal circumstance. I believe disability was taken out in the official translation, but any other personal circumstance seems to pretty much sum it up. All are equal before the law. Let's emphasize that. All are equal before the law. That's a big statement. That's not a statement that we have in our U.S. Constitution. We have to interpret that. We have to interpret a lot of our Constitution. For example, in the Slovenian Constitution, as an aside, they specify you have a right to privacy. Our Constitution does not. Our Supreme Court had to step in and say, well, it's such an underpinning of our Constitution. It's so important, the right to privacy, that we don't even spell it out. We think that it's just understood. Well, Slovenia doesn't assume anything. They just say it. And here they say all are equal before the law. And my understanding of the word all means all, no exceptions. So let's go on and see what else we have. Article 48, asylum. Now, the reason I bring this up is that even though Slovenia is a very small country, it did have its share of refugees coming through. In fact, in one city near the Croatian border, there were Syrian immigrants a couple of years ago walking down the railroad tracks, and the best place to house them was in a warehouse. That was the only place big enough to hold everyone. The church right across the railroad tracks helped out as best they can, and they did what they could until the refugees moved on. Although Slovenia did offer to keep the refugees, give them what they needed, they decided to move forward to Germany. But others choose to stay. And this is why education of immigrant children has become a big issue. So let's back up, though, first and look at Article 48, asylum. Within the limits of the law, the right of asylum shall be recognized to foreign nationals and stateless persons who are subject to persecution for the commitment to human rights and fundamental freedoms. So asylum is not illegal. Seeking asylum or refugee status is not illegal. I believe a lot of people here think in the US that it's illegal. It's not. You need to go through the proper channels, which may be you're fleeing for your life and you're crossing a port of entry and you say, hey, I'm here to apply for asylum. But even if you come in through a non-port of entry, you may still be able to apply for asylum in the US because sometimes people are trafficked in here. They don't have any choice. They don't come voluntarily. So understand that seeking asylum as a refugee or someone who's already in the US seeking asylum status is not illegal. Slovenia has said it's not illegal. And in fact, our countries have obligations internationally to help people to accept a minimum number of refugees and asylum seekers. So let's go on and look at Article 56, Rights of Children. Remember, if we go back to the Article 14 statement that everyone is protected, if we go back to the basic charter statement in Article 3, everyone is protected. And I said, in my understanding, all means all, there are no exceptions. So rights of children. Children shall enjoy special protection and care. Children shall enjoy human rights and fundamental freedoms consistent with their age and maturity. Children shall be guaranteed special protection from economic, social, physical, mental, or other exploitation and abuse. Such protection shall be regulated by law. So we dip on down to Article 57 on education and schooling. Freedom of education shall be guaranteed. Primary education is compulsory and shall be financed from public funds. The state shall create the opportunities for citizens to obtain a proper education. So what we have learned is that if you're a human being in Slovenia, you're guaranteed human rights. If you're a child in Slovenia and you're a citizen, you're guaranteed the right to education. Now, this is not the same as saying that if you're the child of a foreign national, the child of a person who's working in Slovenia, the child of a person who's a permanent resident in Slovenia, that you have the right to education. It says citizens. So in the next video, we will get to non-citizens. But for now, what I want you to take away from this is that if you're a human being in Slovenia, their constitution says you should be treated like a human being. That's what I want you to take away from this. This is applicable to so many other things, but in particular, education. Until next time, adio.